session for us to rewatch later. And yeah, so welcome once again. Thank you so much for being today here with me and Robin. I'm thrilled to be here. So I would love Robin to hear like more about you. So why don't you just go and tell us who you are and what you're doing and the purpose of our talk today?
Sure. So hello, I'm Robin. I'm so excited to be here. Linda is such a gracious host, so this is just a delight for me, and seeing all of you popping up in the attendees panel. It's just so good to see you. Thank you for taking this time. So I'm Robin. I'm a public speaking coach and communication expert. My background is so all over the place. I have pivoted more than most people, at least I'd hope so. It's pretty exhausting sometimes, all the pivots. I grew up dancing, got both degrees in dance, and was a university professor in a dance department for a long time before deciding to jump ship because I'm just too much of a free spirit. I like to do my own thing, and academic life is pretty, regulated. So it was great to sort of spread my wings and jump into that entrepreneurship role. I did a lot of stuff in health and wellness for a while, moved on to sort of some business and marketing training, and landed with communication because I realized my long history of pivots really did have a through line. And it was so exciting the day I saw that, in that I'm a certified movement analyst. So I love movement and I love watching people move. And I love writing and communicating. And so just working in that public speaking realm has been so affirming to finally find that place that fits. And I'm a TEDx speaker, I'm an author, and I just love working with other people to help them find their fit, their big idea, their thing that makes them stand out, and then help them share that with a lot of confidence and ease and authenticity, because we need so much of that in today's world. And so, yeah, I got 2 kids, a fantastic husband, a little dog who's always right at my feet when I do these things because he can't leave my side. And that's me.
So much for sharing. Actually, I really want to hear like more of what you said about defining the superpower, because I've seen like so many people struggling for attention and competition, especially in the workforce. And now with all of us working remotely, sometimes it's so difficult for people to shine and to show their uniqueness, because we are all behind our computers, behind the screen, and we are working so hard to showcase that. I've seen it from my personal experiences and my friends of mine. They say to me, I don't know what else to do. I work so hard. I don't get any recognition. I don't know if I am even good at what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm good at. And that's what I would love to hear from you, because so many people, they don't know where they're good at. They're trying to mimic and copy other people's styles. And then they say, it doesn't work. Well, what am I doing wrong?
Well, you've hit on so many important issues right there. And I think there's a lot of people who can relate to that. And so I think in a nutshell, like what you're saying, the big problem is there are people who are getting overlooked, forgotten, or passed up for opportunities and experiences that they see other people who maybe aren't even as talented as them getting those experiences. And so for me, the thing that really allows people to stand up, I think there's 3 key things when it comes to sort of defining that, that superpower, as we've been talking or calling it here. And that's authenticity, confidence, and then a diamond idea. And so what I mean by that, so authenticity, to me, this is the good news, right? The best part about being able to show up as yourself and stand out is to simply show up as yourself. There are so many people trying to, like you said, mimic what they see other people doing. We're all trying to be the next Brene Brown, or, you know, these people that we look up to and we think, that's what I want to do with my life. Why can't I get that sort of experience and that attention? And so we try to be them, and that's never going to work, right? That's never going to work. We can only be ourselves. And as a public speaker, I see so many parallels, right? Because a lot of people don't necessarily want to be public speakers. And yet the lessons I learn are so applicable, whether you think you want to speak on stage or not. We're all public speakers, right? We're all public communicators. And what happens when I'm working with clients and we're, you know, working on a keynote or a workshop presentation, and we're having these conversations like we're having right now, and it's casual and it's fun, and then they show up on stage and suddenly it's, I have to be so professional now. And I like their whole demeanor changes, right? Because they think they're supposed to look or act or sound a certain way. And the good news is we just want to see you. We want to see real people. I am never going to be a super fashionable, like high-powered, I'm always quirky, I'm casual. That's me. And if I try to be something else, it's not going to work. Likewise, if someone tries to be me, it's not going to work. And so that first step of really defining what sets you apart, how do you get noticed, is being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable with who you are, how you like to do things. And that's not an excuse to like never try or improve, but it does mean being okay with who you are. And I see a question like, does that apply for job interviewing? I think 100% yes, because jobs, even more so than public speaking, right? How you present yourself in that interview is going to determine how they see you. And if you show up trying to be something you're not, and then you get the job, do you have to keep pretending and being that role for the rest of your life? Because that's an easy way to burn out and dissatisfaction in your job. Now, just because we're being ourselves doesn't mean we have to be, I mean, we do have sort of variations of ourselves, right? I'm different with my kids than I am even my own husband. I'm different with my best friends than I am, you know, some of my extended family. So there are those variations. You don't have to show up at a job being loud and boisterous and all over the place like you would at a party, but you still can be you. If you are a little quirky, be a little quirky. If you are really direct and to the point, be that, because you want to show up in a way that you can show up forever and be comfortable and be happy. So that authenticity is such a key. And I love starting there because it's that permission, right? That you get to be yourself. And I wish people felt more comfortable being themselves, because I see it all the time when I'm working with these clients and we have this great relationship. And then as soon as they show up, it's stiff and awkward. And they don't believe me when I said, just talk like you would to a best friend, right? Talk in the appropriate context. Like sometimes we talk to our friend and it's, you know, late at night party, and sometimes we're talking to our friend when we're talking about something serious. So know the context, but be yourself in that context. And then the second part of that is your confidence. And we all know confidence plays such a huge role in how people see you, right? And we sometimes assume that confidence comes from, well, I need to lose weight, or I have to wear certain clothes, or have a million certificates or degrees before I'm going to really feel like I belong in a job. And while I do agree, especially when it comes to like job interviewing or speaking about a topic, you should have a level of credibility. We're not here to promote, you know, being bogus and conning people. But confidence really stems from, one, that authenticity, right? When you feel comfortable in your own skin, it's so much easier to just say, I'm just going to show up as myself. And if they like me, great. And if they don't, I can't control that. And trying to make them like me isn't going to make me come off any better. It's not going to make me feel more genuine or more real. And so kind of letting go of that, like, if they don't like me, they don't like me. And that's been one of the most freeing things in my own life, and has given me a lot of confidence to just be like, this is me. And if you like it, great, then we're going to connect. And if you don't, well, it was nice seeing you. Confidence also comes from really having a sense of what you're talking about, why you're talking about it, and practice, right? So your first job interview is always going to be probably one of your worst job interviews, and that's just the nature of life. But the more you do it, which is why practicing in interviewing or practicing talking to people, even if it's just, I'm going to start a conversation at the grocery store with the lady at the checkout counter, opportunities to practice showing up just infuse our confidence, and it gets easier each time. That doesn't mean you don't still, right? Even just a few minutes before this starts, you feel like, there's pre sort of interview nerves hitting up, but to just remind myself that it's like, I'm me, I can't change that, and I have something I am passionate about sharing, and that leads into that confidence too. And then the third thing is, and this is the one that I get the most passionate about just because it's the one I see people struggling with, and that's finding what I call your diamond idea. And I use this analogy because you think of a diamond. If you see a diamond, you know what it is. It's like, ooh, it's shiny, it's bright, it's a diamond. We know it's worth something, right? Whether we agree with that or not, we know that that diamond probably cost a lot of money. And so it's easily recognizable, but diamonds also have facets. They have all these little different sides that the light hits in different ways, and all of a sudden you see it in a new way, or it shines light on something else. And so a good idea, and whether that's like specifically an idea, like you're going to talk in front of people, it's a meeting, a workshop, a presentation, and I have this solid idea, or that idea is also just how you think of yourself, right? One of the women that I've been working with, we're preparing for a virtual conference next week, and she calls herself the doctor of digital health. And I love that because it's such a clear, like, diamond title. Like you hear, it's like, ooh, digital health and doctor, that makes it sound like she must be the best at this, right? So a diamond idea could also be how we think about our skills, our strengths, or the ideas we want to put out there. And when it comes to those ideas, the key is really about figuring out what's the one thing that you want your audience, the interviewer, the people in your workshop, the network that you're trying to connect with. What's the one thing you want them to remember? Because in today's world, right, we're getting overlooked, we're missing the mark, we're not getting the opportunities. It's because the world is crowded, it's cluttered, it's noisy, and we're all yelling a million ideas at once, trying to get traction, instead of focusing on one thing that we can keep saying until people go, wait, say that again, right? It's that one thing that makes people, Brene Brown, for example, I always love using Brene Brown as an example because she's a powerhouse. And what does she talk about? Shame and vulnerability. It doesn't matter what podcast she's on or what stage she's speaking on, what her books are about. It all comes down to shame and vulnerability. And no one says, oh, enough with the shame already, Brene. Can you talk about something else? No, they're all being like, please come talk on my podcast. Come speak at my stage. So finding that one idea, that one thing that you are willing to sort of, I won't say bet your life on, but that you're willing to say, I believe in this. I know there's interest for it, and I have enough credibility to back it up. Those three things combined into that one idea that you want to drive home is key in showing up with confidence, whether it's a job interview, whether it's a meeting, whether it's an email you're writing. It doesn't matter where you're communicating. If you can't ask yourself or answer the question, what's one thing I want them to take away? Most likely, they're not going to take away anything, right? If that answered your question, very roundabout.
Oh my God. Like, honestly, like we are here cheering that thing because I'm sure like so many people will relate as well. I am in a position where, starting a new role, a new organization, and you're the brand new person who is called to do something. And you don't know how to shape yourself around these people. And you're like, okay, I'm going to see how everybody else is moving around. Let me shape myself and my communication according to them. And then, as you said, that the authenticity fades because it's a doubt, the doubt that comes to yourself and say, what if they don't like me? What if I'm authentic and they don't like me? What's then? What happens then? What if, they give me all these, they have all these expectations from me, what I don't fulfill those expectations? And I think this is this self-doubt, this thing that we keep eating ourselves, like with all the worries. But I love the idea of taking like one thing and make it your identity. Like they know your name, and when they hear your name, they know what you're doing. And that's what, it's easy to say, but when you go to shape it, it takes so much of a courage and so much of a confidence, like in your own skin. Like people often, they compare themselves to others and they say, oh, but this person is better than me, they have done like many things, they have achieved so many things. But then we have to realize, what is the one thing that I do that these people, they're not good at, or they don't do it as I am doing it? Because everybody, as I said, like we have a different characteristics, we have like different set of skills that we use in public. Yeah, I'm really feeling empowered right now. But you, Robin, it's like I have these doubts in my head, and I was thinking, oh my God, I think I'm losing my identity here. I don't feel that I am providing as much value as I wanted. I feel like I'm trying to mingle with a group just to be liked. So, like, what would you like to say, like, that people like myself, like, and I'm sure that people can relate as well to this. We often lose our authenticity just to fit in the group and be liked and have friends and basically belonging, but in a sense of living outside something that is very unique for us.
Oh, I love that. And it's, again, I'm sure all of us are going, yep, we've been there, we've done that, we know that feeling. And there's two things that you said that I wanted to talk on and get to this question too. One, first, just to clarify, when I say the one thing you do well, because that could lend itself to some real imposter syndrome, where it's like, well, I do this well, but I'm not the best at it, right? I promise there's lots of people who do it better than me. And that's okay, right? Just like we have all these superheroes, Superman's really strong, and so is the Hulk, right? They both can be really strong and known for that. So you don't have to be the only one with this superpower, but it's just about being comfortable and like, but this is what I'm good at. And yeah, she may be a little bit even better, but that doesn't mean I don't, like you said, I don't do it in a unique way or in my way that's going to contribute in a way that she can't. And then to your second point, how do we deal with this wanting to fit in versus belonging, which I think it's so just appropriate that you're using that, because again, Brene Brown, this is her big thing, right? Is also fitting in versus belonging. And when I think about that, because we all want to be liked, and I think it's important to be aware of what's happening around us, partially because my thing that I can do to serve other people is about other people. So I have to be aware of how my superpower, how this diamond inside of me serves other people. And then for me, rather than thinking, well, how can I overcome this desire to fit in and instead seek for true belonging? And this is almost like a little kind of hack, right, that I found that works. Rather than almost stressing about, do they like me? Do I fit in? Once I have found my superpower, my next job is to look for others and recognize them. Because no one is going to turn down someone who sees them so clearly for something they do really well, that if you want people to like you, see them for their authentic, genuine self. And as we start doing that, it ripples out, and this idea of fitting in and doing what the crowd's doing just sort of naturally falls away as we recognize, like, we're a whole band of superpowers. Like, we have all these different things that we can do. And honoring that in other people, one, is such a gift to them. but it also comes back to you. It strengthens that own sort of genuine, yeah, it's okay that I'm not really good at this because Lisa is so good at that and she's awesome. And Linda, oh, Linda over here, she's doing this thing and that's awesome. And it just allows us to use each other's gifts in a way that lifts everyone up rather than feeling it like it's a competition of who's the best and who's the best or who's the most like willing to just bend to be liked by everyone else. And so I think in that way, as we take our superpower and then start seeing it in other people.
Really love that. That was amazing. Like seeing the other people's charisma and the power they bring with them. And I think that is leadership, that's confidence. So we don't feel threatened by somebody else's superpower. And I really love that because yes, we all have, as I said, we said as well, like characteristics and superpowers. But as you nicely put it, it's like Superman is a superhero, Hulk is a superhero. They don't have to compete because each of them is in different field, let's say. And I would like at this point, I would love to see like if any of you guys like feel free to share your stories and tell us like have you ever experienced this kind of feeling of feeling a little bit behind and trying to fit in to be liked and trying to understand like what is your superpower. And I like what Winona said, like each person has a role, and I like that, and that fits beautifully in some organizations that they are building now. Then I've seen like many teams forming from the beginning and people coming across and they just say, oh, I can do this and this and this, and you can see like how they just fire skills here and there, and then at the end of this party everyone was like, so who is good at this eventually? I don't remember because you all said you are good at one thing, but now I cannot find the person who is actually good at this. So what would you say, Robin, to people that they actually they are trying to find like which field they should dive in more in order to define their own superpower? Like what kind of process, like what kind of advice would you give to them to dig that diamond from inside them?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So the process for me, and this is the process I use, like I started this process as, again, a writer, like working on messages or speeches, articles. And the more I did it, the more I realized like this is the process for finding just that title for yourself, right? Or that niche. And the bad news is it's not an easy process necessarily. It's not like a fast, quick process. But the good news is a lot of people aren't willing to do it. And if you're willing to take the time, again, it's going to help you stand out as everyone else is still using the same scripts and templates and copycat, generic things that we see all over, whether it's for job interviews, for online content, whatever it is. And the process just starts simple brainstorming, right? Get a piece of paper and just get all the ideas out. So if you're looking for ideas, like you want to write a speech, you're going to think about all the problems that you could solve or all the topics you're interested in. Like, don't even worry about categories yet. Just get it all on paper. And that's the same for you. If you're trying to find like, what is my passion? Like, where am I at? As someone who has dance degrees and certification in movement analysis, and who's owned her own business and sold a business and has worked with creativity and marketing and websites and copywriting, I felt like a crazy person for so many years because every couple of years it's like, and I'm changing direction again. And not just like moving up a ladder like, oh, I got it. It's like, no, I'm totally going into a new industry. And I finally found clarity when I applied that same process that I use in my writing by just laying it all out. Right? What are all the things I like to do? And then you start seeing the connections. You start seeing like, what do these things have in common? Or which ones are more important to me or best align with my core values? Which are the ones that I'm really good at? which are the ones I like to do, right? Sometimes they're the same, and sometimes, even though it's a little bit frustrating, they aren't the same, right? You might be really good at something, you're like, but I actually don't like doing it. And so you just need to like take an inventory of all of those different ideas and possibilities, experience, jobs you've had. Like, get a big picture, right? Just get it all on paper, and then just start highlighting the ones that stick out, the ones that make you feel alive. And out of those ones, start looking, is there a connection, right? And it may be obvious, and it may not. When I started looking at everything, I started going, oh, the one thing that's been consistent throughout my entire 20 years post, college life is communication. Whether I've been writing, whether I've been copywriting, whether I've been speaking, whether I've been presenting, my body language, like, it's all communication. And the day I had that moment, like, the light bulb went off, and I remember talking to my husband. We went on a walk, and I was just like, I finally found it. Like, he knew I'd been struggling for a long time, going, whatever isn't fitting, but I cannot pivot again unless it's the last time, right? And not that it's ever the last time, but I was like, I need to know these pivots have meaning and that they have a purpose, and that I'm not just going whichever way direction I want. And when I told him, I was like, it's all communication. Like, we were both like, duh, like, why did it find that? And it's because I didn't take the time to just lay it out and sit with it and play with different connections and see what they are all about. And so in that process, some of the questions I ask myself that are helpful is, what problems do I enjoy solving or can I solve? What beliefs do I want to challenge? What are things that I'd like to see done in a new way? And what's the other question? I can't remember the other question, but it's all around those same ideas, right? Problems I'm solving, reframes, a twist on an old idea, and you keep playing with it. And eventually you're going to get that list, and it's going to get further, more and more concise. And then maybe you have a few. And sometimes that's where people will stop there, and that's already more work than most people will do, and that's going to put you ahead of the game. But I say that's usually your good idea, but it's not a diamond yet, right? Diamonds require a lot of mining, digging, polishing, cutting. And so once you have that good idea, then you play on all the variations, right? You find the sweet spot, and it really is just the little words. Those little words make a difference. How we communicate it, how we view it, how we see it. Those little tweaks, that polishing process helps us take a good idea that would still be good and turn it into a diamond idea that people, again, they hear it, they see it, it's like, yes, that's it. Let's do this. Let's run with it. And then the good news is you have that diamond idea that you can share quickly, instantly, in an interview, in the elevator pitch, on social media, in a 15-second reel, whatever it is. But you have all that other work that you did, the brainstorming, that you then can support it. So you don't just have this idea, but it's already pretty fleshed out because you've thought about the stories that got you here. You thought about the experiences, the research, the writing, the reading, whatever it is. All of that's there supporting this idea. So you have this shiny, brilliant thing, and then the value underneath it all. And so that's my process. It's really just brainstorming, right? The things that we were taught in school, brainstorming it, and then taking the time to find the connections, because we all have our gifts. We all have our strengths. Sometimes it's really obvious, like a few of you might have a really clear, obvious one. Gold star, like, congratulations, I'm happy for you. For the rest of us, we might have like these little tiny strengths, right? We call them minor strengths that we think it's not good enough to make me stand out, but combined, all of a sudden it's really impressive, right? If we're going back to our superhero analogy, I think like Iron Man, like he took all these pieces and created this suit that had all this power, but it's really just, bolts, and I don't know what it's made of. I'm not technical in that way, but that idea that little tiny things combined together is what can make you stand out. So that if you don't have a big obvious, I am this, I am the doctor of digital health. No, but you might be at writing, and communicating and interpersonal relationships. And you might have all these pieces, and when you combine them, it's suddenly like, oh, I'm a therapist. Like, I am here to solve people's problems, right? So it may surprise you what comes out of that process.
Fully agree with that. And I know like so many people, like they're going to like share their stories, like here, don't let me only me do the talk, guys. Like I know that you have stories to share.
We want to hear them.
Yes, we do. Like honestly, I went through a career transformation like 2 years ago. And Robin, like exactly what you described, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. And I was thinking, what have I done all these years? Like, what is the common denominator of the things that I've done so far, and why I enjoy it or why I didn't enjoy it? And like Winona also said here, like, what makes me like wake up in the morning? What is this trigger? And as you said, several things that I was doing, and it came to me. I was thinking, oh, I like talking to people. I like hosting party. I like, doing this kind of conversations. Wait a moment. Am I doing community things that I'm not realizing it yet? And, it kind of, I think at some point it emerges, like where, as you said, you collect these components together, these elements, and then you realize, as you said, like you're a writer, good at communication. Oh, wait a moment, I can solve your problem. Or people say, I like collecting data. I like people's behavior. Oh, I'll be a researcher. I'll be a data analyst. These kind of triggers, like these kind of little elements. And I believe that honestly, it's like so important to know yourself. But as like I think Winona also said something very nice. It's like asking other people as well to see like what we think about ourselves, but also how the world perceives us, how the world sees us as people. When they hear our names, what the first thing that becomes in their mind, like how they can relate us. Because I asked friend of mine, and I was thinking like, what do you think I'm good at? Like honestly, like hit me, like tell me, what do you think I'm good at? And they were like, you like talking to people, you like philosophy, you like kind of, telling them like what kind of advice to do and stuff like that. And like, oh, you should do this. And then the situation comes. So like Amanda also says, like she's the person who comes to when they need help finding some piece of information. Guys, honestly, we would love to hear your stories. Jump on camera, ask Robin directly. I'm sure, like Robin, you would love to hear people like asking you these questions. But to move forward, like and I think like so many people have the same question. After, as you said, like we define this superpower, we find these things, but we're not the only one who have this kind of stuff, right? Like I might do, let's say, community management and events, but I'm not the only one, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But how can we stand out? Like since like we are not the only, like, the unique, having the monopoly and stuff. Like how do we actually stand out to the surface?
Oh, such a good question. And this kind of goes with Winona's asking, how do I show up in the world? And it really is connected. So how do you stand out, right? Because we aren't the only ones doing what we're doing. I mean, there's very few jobs, if any, that there's really one person doing it, right? Maybe if you are the leader of a very specific country, congratulations. But even then, they have people under them. So for me, the big key about standing up and showing up is one, to just do that. You need to show up, right? So once you have this idea, you figure out, here's what I do. And yes, maybe you are a product manager and you go, there are millions of product managers. And it's like, yes, but my approach to product managing includes these other little things, right? And it's that combination that someone who's looking for a product manager who is really good at motivating and inspiring their team or whatever it is, right? You found that way to tweak. And so it's not just a title. We sometimes get focused on titles like product manager or communications director or whatever the title is. And for me, that superpower is like, okay, yeah, but what's that unique version of your title? You are the product manager who what, right? So fill in that blank and then show up. And for me, speaking, public speaking, and the way I define public speaking, like there's obviously, when we think of public speakers, we think conferences, you're on stage, you got the clicker and the slides behind, and you're getting paid and it's like a job. And that's definitely an aspect and one part of public speaking. The kind of public speaking I'm passionate about is where you have to speak with other people. One-on-one with your boss or your employees, whether that's in a small classroom as a teacher or a product manager, whether that's as a thought leader, right, online, whether that's an author or someone who's a researcher and has to get people on board to get the grant for their research. There are so many ways that we can show up as public speakers, and most people are terrified of public speaking. I mean, we've all heard the stats, right, that more people are afraid of death than public speaking, which isn't true, but we still like to throw it around. But the thing is, because there's this stigma or this fear or this, even if you aren't afraid of it, you think, well, yeah, I'm public speaking when I'm on stage, but I don't think about it when I'm talking to my coworker during my 9 to 5 hours. And if we can reframe that as any opportunity you have to communicate publicly, and that may be speaking, maybe it's also emails, writing, if you write articles, captions in social media, right? Any chance that you have to speak publicly, we should take that if, this is the big if, because I'm not a big advocate of like just doing work for the sake of work. If it, one, helps get you closer to the thought of what do I want to be known for, right? So you think about, what do I want to be known for? What's that thing that would make me feel so excited if I was the go-to expert for XYZ? So if you have an opportunity to speak or communicate in a way that's going to help get you to that place that you're going to be known for that, then we should do it. And then two, we should get so crystal clear about that one question, right? So if you don't remember anything else from today's lecture, this is the one thing I want you to remember. And that is, what is the one thing you want people to know about you or about your idea, right? What's the one thing? Because we're forgetful, we're overstimulated, we're stressed to the max. And if we assume that people can remember more than one thing, we are fooling ourselves. Even if they're taking like voracious notes and they're so excited and they're like, oh, I'm going to implement this. What do we usually do? We go home and then the kids need dinner or we have a date or whatever it is, and we suddenly forget that we took those notes. But if you can get them to remember one thing, that's that sticking power. And that sticking power automatically pops you up out of the crowd, because we can't remember the crowd. We can't remember a million things. And this is so freeing in today's world where we're expected to show up on all these different platforms and have intelligent, thoughtful things to say. And, you know, even if we're not like bloggers or content producers, somehow we're expected to showcase and have these deep thoughts about current events and everything going on. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if we can really define the one thing we want people to know, either about us or about our ideas, our work, that takes off a lot of pressure. I don't have to show up every day or every hour, but you know, and I could still sprinkle in personal things. I don't have to just be this one thing. I don't want it to be my sole identity. But in my professional life, I want people to know this one thing. And I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to say it over and over again, maybe in new ways, in different ways, find new stories to support it, new research or facts. And I'm going to be known for that one thing. And people are going to remember it because I showed up and because it was so crystal clear. Because if it's not crystal clear, it doesn't matter how often you show up. And we see this, right? People who post online all the time and don't get any traction, it's because they're not saying something either really clear or really important. So we think about those three things. I have these bubbles in my head, and we're looking for that that Venn diagram and the intersection of what are you passionate about? What, where is their audience interest, right? Or if it's your job interest that people are going to pay you for. And then your credibility. Do you have the expertise? And when we intersect those three things, that's sort of that sweet spot. The ideas, the titles, the things that we want to be known for or say to the world. If we only have two of those things, like say we have passion for it and there is interest, but there's no expertise supporting it, that turns us into bogus, right? We're kind of a bogus, not really believable. If we have passion and we have expertise, but there's no audience interest, we're broke, right? You may be the world's best cat massage therapist, but if no one wants to pay for it, you're broke. And then if you have expertise and you have interest, but you're missing passion, you're bored. And that was for me for a long time is things I was like, well, I know people want this and I have the training and the credibility to do it, but I didn't have my passion. And that's why every 2 years it was like, we're changing ship again. So passion, audience interest, expertise, find that sweet spot and then show up. What's the one thing you want them to know? If you can answer that and you keep showing up and saying it, eventually they're going to know you for that one thing.
That's amazing. I'm astonished. And honestly, like it's like you're talking at the moment, like inside of my head, because I have these thoughts and I was thinking, I really would like to make an impression of who I am, but I keep losing what is my one thing. I keep losing this, as you said, in the crowd, trying to always, pause here, pause there, speak here, speak there. People are talking so much, but they don't take a moment to realize that, wait a moment, what is the consistency here? Why am I jumping from one topic to another? And I had that personally. I was jumping from a topic to topic because I think that some people will relate as well. I had this thing that I had to be on top of everything. I had to, to do everything. I couldn't let go of something. I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to get involved with that meeting. I'm going to get involved with that project. And then people are like, where do you fit? Where is like your thing? Where is your one thing? You're like always like here and there. But as you said, like it's like the consistency of the one thing that makes us shine. People can relate that one thing to us, and then we also funnel our energy to that one thing and grow and become better and increase the credibility, increase the audience and the passion. Because I really understand this now, that I'm thinking, oh my God, like I'm always trying to impress people by doing so many things. But at the end of the day, it's the one thing that impresses. It's the one thing that we do correctly, not correctly, it's like the diamond thing. Instead of, being the one who's always involved, be the one who is the go-to person. And I really, really love that idea. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna put it in a big post-it to remember it. It's like, because I'm sure like people will agree with me in this topic. We feel insecure because we feel like, oh, I don't know. I am in all these places, and sometimes like the energy goes in so many directions and we lose that energy, and it's like not directed energy, it goes all over the place. And then I failed like as an entrepreneur in my previous works, because I was thinking, why people don't like me? I'm passionate about, I know about it. Why do all this, like, why do they want to know about this stuff? But that was like 6 years ago, I think. But now I understand, like, wait a moment, have I been consistent? Have I been talking about this thing only? Have these people relate these kind of topics with me? Do they know I'm the expert, or I just jump into the several topics? So yeah, that was like gold what you just said. And I think like Winona also said, and Bella, Amanda, like we are so grateful for you here today, Robin. I think you've changed like people's perspective today, and I'm so happy. And you guys, like, if you have any question, like we have at least 15 minutes, and I would love to see like if you have any questions, anything that you would like to share with Robin. I see like Bella, she agrees. Thank you, Bella, for understanding me. um, so if you guys have a question, I have plenty, Robin, today.
It looks like Amanda has a question here.
Yes,
She says,
Amanda.
as a job seeker working to pivot into a new career track, how do I get the expertise portion that will make me a solid candidate? I've been told over and over that I have the passion, but need the experience that'll give me the expertise. Don't you love this catch-22 in the job world where it's like, you have to have this much experience, but guess what? The only way you can get it is in our job. So here's what I would do. And my husband actually had this problem just a few years ago. So we worked together as entrepreneurs for a long time, and he was doing so many different tasks to support sort of this business. And then after a while, he was like, I'm ready. I want to get back in the workforce. Like, I really miss people and I want that connection. He's more of an extrovert. And I'm like, you go with your bad self. I'm going to stay nice at home and do my own thing. But he had a really hard time because his resume, there was no clear like expertise, right? Even though he is insanely talented and intelligent and can do all these different things. And so that's where you start looking at, so again, look at the job you want and brainstorm, like what are the skills that it needs, right? And then look at your work history and see where your work history supports those skills, even if it has maybe a different name or it's not exactly a perfect fit. And then it's about communicating that in a way that translates your old experience into this new job. One way to help with that is to find someone who currently has the type of job you want. Ask them about the language, ask them about, the terms that they're going to be looking for so that you can translate what you do know in a way that makes them feel comfortable. It's like, okay, even though it's not exact fit, she has done the things we need her to do, right? She knows how to solve problems. She knows how to think on her feet. She's a fast learner. She understands these technical things, which means she'll probably be able to understand these ones pretty quickly, right? And so it's that communication of finding the layer, and this goes back to what Linda was saying, your one thing, sometimes we get lost in the details, and what we need to do is move one layer up thing, right? Because sometimes our jobs require us to do more than one thing. As ideal as it sounds, be like, I'm known for this one thing. Most jobs would be like, okay, that's great, but you also have to do these things, right? So what's that thing above those things that can help you clarify? That's like, yeah, I do these other tasks, but they all support this one thing. And so moving layered up and be like, they say they want someone with XYZ experience. I'm going to look at what the details, like what kind of skills really match that experience. And then finding that layer up that aligns, that it's like, okay, job description is what you want. Look at the skills. They're parallel, right? They're right there in line with each other. And that you can find that way to prove that you do have the skills, you do have the experience, even if it doesn't look like it based off a job title from the past. And it worked. And my husband was able to get a really fantastic job that if you looked at his resume, because our own business was sort of this amorphic, wasn't really clear what his role was. And so based on his last employed position versus what he is now, is a huge leap, both in terms of title, prestige, and salary, because he was able to find that match of his work that looked like it on the surface. So hopefully that helps.
I think that helped for sure, and I meet at least. I think also Jennifer, she said that she has reached out to people with a similar title and have a conversation on LinkedIn, and I really agree with that as well. That is extra helpful, and to see I have done that. I've seen people who have the job title that I want to have and ask them directly and say, hey, how did you get there? Do you have a way? How can I do that? and people are so helpful. Like there are people who can provide advice and guidance, and they are so inspiring as well, like to really show you the way and what to do. Because we don't come with a manual. We don't always know. We don't like graduate school and we have like, oh, you're gonna be a great lawyer, go for it. We always change. And like Robin, I'm like you, changed like so many times. I've transferred. I just, I was like, oh, I like this, I'm very passionate, and then 2 years later I'm like, actually I don't like this. I'm not even good at it anymore. I don't know how I thought I can do it. I had like this delusion in my head. uh, but I really, really appreciate this advice. And like something like from me, like it's like nothing is impossible. And it comes to the term like, I love what you said, Robin, about the confidence and striking for the one power, because people say sometimes, how do I know power? How do I actually know, like, what if I don't have any power? What if I don't have anything? What if I don't have that one thing? Like, what would you say, like, in this kind of thoughts?
I've heard this a lot before. And again, so this is where it's this sort of thing of, it's not so much that we have to be one thing, but it's that we're really clear on the one thing that connects all of our other things, right? And I don't believe for a second that there's anyone on this planet who doesn't have a handful of things that they can do, right? And most of us, again, as we're starting out in our careers, even if we're really good at it, we don't have the same expertise as someone who's been doing it for 20 years. Some of us has more natural talent than the others. And so it's, the biggest thing is keep doing. What do you love? What do you want to do? And the only way to get that eventually, so where you feel really confident about it, is to keep practicing. And even then, there's some of us with imposter syndrome who will never think we're there, which is actually a good sign. People who are deep critical thinkers are the ones we want. And those are often the ones who are questioning their worth. But think again, that's where you make the list, right? Look at yourself in a really big way. Find the connection, and then get really clear on how you can communicate that. And that goes in when you're talking about, reaching out to people on LinkedIn who had the job. I loved it because it's one, communication, which we're talking about, and two, recognizing someone else's superpower, right? And that makes them feel all happy and they want to give back. And so the more we communicate with each other, the more we can learn from those who have the superpowers we want. But then we also can start seeing ourselves in our unique strengths, that it's like, okay, I may not have the 10 years experience that they want in this one field, but I got 5. And then I have 5 years of this other thing that they don't realize they need. And I'm going to communicate it to them so they see it as the superpower it is, and choose me over someone who maybe fits the description perfectly, but doesn't stand out as unique, right? Doesn't stand out as, I got this X factor here, this thing that I've clearly defined and I've spent time honing, whether it's my compassion, whether it's my perseverance. Like, it could be these characteristics that we know have carried us, and yet we don't communicate those when we go into these job interviews, or where we're on stage or we're online, as if they're like these subpar skills compared to like coding or, these certifications that we want, when those life skills, those leadership skills, are the ones that they may not realize it, they're the ones that make you stand out. And so capitalize on all your skills, even if they don't have a really technical or professional sensibility about them.
Exactly. Like, that's what I believe as well. Like, there's no way that we don't have like some skills in our lives. Like, I think like we just don't know yet. And just to sum up, like, I would say, like I said, Robin, dive deep, write down the verbs that you enjoy to do. See like your work history. See like how other people see you. Like, what do they say about you? Like, how do they actually describe you, what kind of words they use to describe you. And also, as you said, Robin, to take these kind of things and to find the commonality, the common denominator, and link all these components together to emerge into a superpower, into something that will shine as a diamond, as you said, and it will just refine and make you stand out, because it's crowded out there. Like, we all know, we all have experienced it, we all have been in the situation where we thought there are so many talented people in this place, how am I going to shine? There you go, you have your answer, hopefully today. And I would love if you guys you want to share your LinkedIn's and connect with each other. As I said in the beginning of the session, this is all being recorded, so thankfully we're going to rewatch it many times. What Robin said today. So Robin, do you have any final, let's say, advice for us to give us, so we can find this courage to stand out in this saturated, I would say, world, with all these people trying to find a voice?
I think the last thing I would just love to remind people, because sometimes it's easy to see your value, right? Sometimes you can say, I'm really good at XYZ, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes the things that we do on a daily life don't feel as valued in the world, in our own view. And that's when you need to look at the things you do and say, why do I do it? How do I do it? Who does it serve? What does it offer? And things from whether you're caretaking your grandma, or you are really good about listening to your friends who struggle, in their relationships, that sometimes these things that we just take for granted are some of our biggest superpowers. And so I know power, and that superpower is the combination of all your superpowers. And that's the fun thing, is that it doesn't have to be one thing, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but it's the unique set of skills and values and personality that you bring to the stage, right? The stage of life, that allow you to stand out and to be seen for who you are, because ultimately that's what we all crave. We want real people. We want people who are genuine, who have interesting things to share. And instead of trying to fit in, instead of trying to sound like everyone else, or do the things that you think, well, this is what someone in my position should sound or look like, dare you, because ultimately that's your superpower. It's you. No one is like you. No one can be like you. And you are the one thing that is the combination of your skills, your talents, your voice, your experience, your struggles, your triumphs. You are the one thing. And so it all comes back to that authenticity that you are. And while it takes some time to maybe articulate that in a way that's really powerful, if you don't know where to start,
Was incredible. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Influenced all of us today, and I take that we are the one thing, the superpower, and no one is like us. So everyone, take that information. I'll take one thing, be specific for one thing, and no one is going to be like us. So there's no way for feeling threatening for somebody else. Thank you so much, Robin, for being with us today. And thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you giving your time today, and Robin, for teaching us something so beautiful. Have a lovely evening, and I hope to see you the next event.
Thank you so much, Linda. And thank you, everyone who came. It was so lovely to share this time with you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.